What's up, everybody? This is Tech G back with another video to help you successfully pass the CompTIA Security Plus certification exam. So let's get into it. So let's imagine you're the gatekeeper to a castle. The castle is your company's data. You don't want anyone waltzing in without permission, correct? That's where identity and access management comes into play. In this video, we're going to be discussing various concepts pertaining to implementing and maintaining identity and access management as it relates to the objectives of the CompTIA Security Plus 701 exam. So with that being stated, let's begin. All right, so first up is provisioning and deprovisioning user accounts. So provisioning, this means creating user accounts with the necessary permissions when employees join your organization. Deprovisioning, on the other hand, this ensures those accounts are disabled or removed when they leave. So think of this as issuing and reclaiming keys to a castle. So let's quickly talk about some of the concepts pertaining to provisioning and deprovisioning. So we have provisioning best practices. So you want to assign accounts based on job roles, and you want to enforce least privilege, where you only want to give the necessary access for a person to do their job. And then we have deprovisioning tips. So you want to disable accounts immediately upon termination, and you want to ensure that shared accounts, if used, are resecured. So what would happen if you don't deprovision correctly? Well, former employees, they might retain access, which could lead to data breaches. So you want to keep this process tight and automated where possible. All right, next is permission assignments and implications. So permissions are like the keys to specific doors. You want to assign them carefully, or someone might end up with access to the treasury when they only need access to the kitchen. So let's talk about permission assignment types. The first type we have is called mandatory access control. And this is access that is based on strict rules defined by the administrator, and they're often used in high security environments like military systems. Then we have what is called discretionary access control. And this is basically where the resource owner decides who gets access to a resource. Then we have what is called role-based access control. And these are permissions that are assigned based on job roles, and it's very efficient for large organizations. Then we have what are called rule-based access control. So the rules, they determine access like only during business hours when somebody can get access to a certain resource. And then we have what are called attribute-based access control. And they use attributes like department, location, or project assignment to determine access. So remember, improper permissions, they can lead to privilege escalation attacks. So you always want to audit permissions regularly. All right, next let's talk about identifying proofing and federation. How do you ensure someone is who they say they are? This is where identity proofing comes in. It's about verifying the authenticity of a user's identity. So for example, requiring a government issued ID for account creation. And then we have a concept called federation. This allows users to log into multiple systems using a single identity. And an example of this could include Google or Facebook login for third-party applications. So federation, this boosts user convenience and security, but requires a robust implementation of various protocols like SAML or OpenID Connect. All right, moving on to single sign-on, or SSO. So single sign-on, this allows users to authenticate once and gain access to multiple systems. So imagine unlocking all the doors in a castle with only one master key. And some of the key technologies involved are LDAP, and this is a protocol for accessing directory services. Then we have what is called open authorization, and this is used for authorization often between third-party applications. And then we have security assertion markup language, and this is a protocol for exchanging authentication and authorization data. So SSO, this basically enhances user experiences, but can be a single point of failure. So you always want to pair it with strong authentication mechanisms. Also, we have what is called interoperability and attestation. So interoperability, this ensures that identity and access management systems work seamlessly across different platforms, while attestation, this involves confirming compliance with security policies. So think of it as a regular castle inspection to ensure all of your doors are secured. All right, so moving on to access control models. So access controls, they dictate who can enter which part of the castle. So let's explore some common models. First one is called mandatory access control. And once again, this enforces strict policies based on clearance levels. We have discretionary access controls. They rely on the discretion of resource owners. We have role-based access controls, and these are efficient for large teams. We have rule-based access controls, and these are great for time time-based restrictions, and we have attribute-based access controls, and these are highly flexible based on user and resource attributes. So you always want to apply the principle of least privilege and layer the controls for added security. All right, next up is multi-factor authentication, and this adds layers to your security by requiring multiple forms of verification. So let's go ahead and break this down. And here are some of the factors of authentication. So we have what is called something you know, and this could be a password or a PIN. You have something you have, where that can be a smart card or a token. Something you are, which could be biometric data like a fingerprint, or somewhere you are, which could be based on your actual physical location. And then we have multi-factor authentication implementation. So once again, we have biometrics like fingerprints or facial recognition. We have various hardware tokens, and we have software tokens like using the Google Authenticator app. So essentially, multi-factor authentication, this significantly reduces the risk of unauthorized access, and it is highly encouraged that you use it everywhere within your network. All right, next up is password concepts and best practices. And these are still a cornerstone of security, but they are often mishandled. So here are some of the best practices for a password. You want to use long, complex passwords. You want to avoid reusing passwords across various systems. You want to set expiration policies. And you want to encourage the use of password managers. And then we have what is called passwordless authentication. And these use technologies like biometrics or hardware keys for secure logins. And password managers, they simplify complexity while improving security. So you want to encourage your users to adopt using a password manager so that they don't have to sit around and memorize 50 different types of passwords. All right, and next up, we have what is called privilege access management. So privileged accounts, these are like royal advisors to your castle. They have more access, but this also makes them prime targets. And privilege access management tools, they help manage these accounts securely. And here are some of the key features. So you have what is called just-in-time permissions, and they grant access only when needed and revoke it afterwards. You have what is called password vaulting. This securely stores and rotates privileged account credentials. You have what are called ephemeral credentials, and they use short-lived credentials to reduce risk. So you want to implement privileged access management to prevent abuse and ensure accountability for privileged actions. All right, so in conclusion, we've just talked about identity and access management. So remember, identity and access management isn't just about keeping bad actors out. It's about ensuring the right people have the right access at the right time. From provisioning to access controls and multi-factor authentication, these tools and strategies, they form the foundation of a secure organization. Now, with all of that being said, let's do some check on learning. So the first question is, which of the following best describes the concept of least privilege? Is it users should only be given permission for the resources they need to complete their tasks? Is it users are granted admin access by default for convenience? Is it access to resources is granted based on the user's role within the organization? Or is it users must authenticate using at least 2 factors to gain access? And the correct answer is users should only be given permission for the resources they need to complete their tasks. So the principle of least privilege, this ensures users are only granted the minimum permissions necessary to perform their tasks, reducing the risk of unauthorized access or damage. It is a key component of access control, and it enhances organizational security. Next question. A company implements a system where employees can use their organization-issued ID badge to authenticate at a workstation. This authentication method is an example of what? Is it something you know, something you have, something you are, or somewhere you are? And of course, this is something you have. So the use of a physical ID badge represents something you have, which is a factor of authentication. Multi-factor authentication systems often combine this with other factors, such as something you know, like a password, or something you are, such as your biometrics, like your fingerprint. And our final question, which protocol enables single sign-on by allowing secure exchanges of authentication and authorization data between systems? Is it the lightweight directory access protocol? Is it the security assertions markup language? Is it the transport layer security? Or is it the simple mail transfer protocol? And the correct answer is it is the security assertions markup language. So security assertions markup language, this is a standard protocol used for single sign-on. It facilitates the exchange of authentication and authorization information between an identity provider and a service provider, enabling users to log in once and access multiple systems securely.